Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started here in just a minute. I probably want to start off by telling you a joke I heard today.
Uh-oh.
This is a good one, and I thought it related so well to what it is that we're going through here. So listen to this here. Let's see if I can read this. Dear tech support, last year I upgraded my boyfriend 5.0 to husband 1.0 and noticed a distinct slowdown in the overall system performance, particularly in the flower and jewelry application, which operated flawlessly under boyfriend 5.0. In addition, husband 1.0 uninstalled many other valuable programs, such as Romance 9.5 and Personal Attention 6.5, and then installed undesirable programs such as NBA 5.0, NFL 3.0, and Golf Clubs 4.1. Conversation 8.0 no longer runs, and House Cleaning 2.8 simply crashes the system. Please note that I have tried running nagging 5.3 to fix these problems, but to no avail. What can I do? Signed, Desperate. So, tech support writes back, okay. Dear Desperate, first, keep in mind that Boyfriend 5.0 is an entertainment package, okay? While Husband 1.0 is an actual operating system. Please enter the command IThoughtYouLovedMe.html. Download Tears 6.2 and be sure to install Guilt 3.0. And it says, if those applications work as desired, Husband 1.0 should then automatically run the application Jewelry 2.0 and Flowers 3.5. However, please remember that overuse of the above application can cause Husband 1.0 to default to Grumpy Silence 2.5, Happy Hour 7.0, or Beer 6.1. Please note that Beer 6.1 is a very bad program that will download the Snoring Loudly beta application. Whatever you do, do not, under any circumstances, install Mother-in-Law 1.0. It runs a virus in the background that will eventually seize control of all your system resources. And lastly here, let's see, in addition, please do not attempt to reinstall the Boyfriend 5.0 program. As much as you might want, this is an unsupported application that will crash Husband 1.0. In summary, 1.0 is a great program, but it does have limited memory and cannot learn new applications quickly. You might consider buying additional software to improve memory and performance. We recommend Cooking 3.0 and Hot Lingerie 7.7. All right. Signed tech support. Well, there you go. That's a funny one. And it sure seemed to fit what it is we're talking about here, doesn't it? And we can picture ourselves as robots, I guess, with all these different operating systems and trying to interface it all together, you know. It is, you know, it's there's a lot to that in communication and whatnot, and making sure that we can sync up. So I thought that was pretty cute. Well, by the way, I'd like to know who all is new here for the first time tonight. If you could raise your hand, let me see. All right. Well, cool. Thank you. Welcome aboard. My name is Rob Nieder. I'm going to be your Master of Ceremonies here. And it's a joy to have you come and join us. So with that out of the way, what I'd like to do in order to jump into chapter 3 on falling in love, I want to turn it over to some of my friends here on video and share a little bit. And once that concludes, I'll ask Pastor Larry and Rena Lauder Ray to jump into this chapter.
And just that first encounter, there was just a feeling. I just knew without a shadow of a doubt, just with that very first encounter, that is the girl I'm supposed to be with the rest of my life. And that's what I told her after our first date. And it really wasn't even a date.
What? Yeah,
it was just an encounter, really. And that's exactly what I told her. You're going to laugh at me, but one of these days we're going to get married. And it was just I just knew it in my gut.
What attracted me to him in the very first place was that he had such a commitment to God in his life. And so we were able to build upon that. And so it brought a lot of respect and a lot of love and caring into the relationship, because he had such a love and caring and respect, and because God had placed that in his life. And that really just attracted me to him.
I knew him when I was a freshman and he was a senior, and he used to drive, so we knew who each other was. And I would get off the bus, and sometimes he would drive by me in his 1964 baby blue Chevy Impala. He would hot rod around the corner when we lived in Hamilton. You remember the red house and I'd be walking home from the bus on the corner, and he'd drive by, and he was always burning out at the high school, and I did a lot of eye rolling over Corey in his car, burning out all the time.
All right, we met at a Planet Caravan video arcade back when we were in high school, and this was in the early 80s, and it was right in the heart of the video arcade days.
What did you think when you first saw me?
I just thought you were the most handsome man I had seen.
That's a good answer. I was like, wow.
It's funny how we were connected. It literally felt like your partner from the second that we started. Like we were meant to be in this place at that time. And I never really thought of love at first sight as a thing. Like, sure, love it for sure. I was very, no way, that's not going to happen. But there was a special moment with Zach, even when he just walked out. I remember it. I can remember it to this day, and stepping out onto the thing, and I felt a connection with him as soon as I saw him. So when he finally came over and we talked, it was just there. And that's why within a couple weeks when we left, and it was like my soul was being ripped apart when we left each other at the airport.
About her. So what is that one thing, if I were to define what that one thing is? Her heart. Her heart. She has such a loving, caring, genuine heart. And she I'm going to try to be manly in my try, but she wears it on her sleeve, and I think that a lot of us are too afraid to get hurt. And the thing that I love about Jackie, and loved then, is that she's not afraid to get hurt. And she did get hurt, and still does sometimes. But she still has her heart, that huge heart that she wears on her sleeve.
It's like God put us together to be together. And I don't know how else to describe it except I feel whole with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me it was probably almost from the very beginning. It's that sense of commitment that you give to me. You've been committed to me almost from day one.
I think it's his character and just who he is. And then just like now, just like 25 years later, he can just, for him it's my heart, but for me it's his heart and how he loves me. Just unconditionally, no matter what. And back then it was he just always had integrity, always had character, and I always felt so safe with him from all aspects, you know, just, it was always my safe place. So I guess, yeah, it's kind of, you know, crazy being that young and knowing that that is, you know, knowing that that's who I wanted to be with for the rest of my life, and being like, what if I don't find that safe place with anybody else? Thank goodness I never had to worry about that, but that was definitely it.
Falling in love seems to be one of the most valued experiences in our culture. Movies are based on it, and we use it to explain odd and bizarre behavior, ours or someone else's. We smile kind of indulgently over young people who have fallen in love, expecting or sometimes hoping that they will certainly fall out of love and move on to another person, maybe many times before they settle for the one. I remember well my first experience of falling in love. Is this threatening?
No, we're fixing to find out.
My family lived in a log house west of Kalispell at the time, so based on the house and where my bedroom was in my memory, I was probably around 10 years old. We didn't go to the movies, and the only TV we had was an old black and white one with rabbit ears that got one channel. So I'm sure I didn't get my ideas from movies or TV shows. I'm guessing I had been reading Prince and Princess fairy tales, or possibly Song of Solomon. Anyway, I clearly remember lying on my bed and repeatedly leaping up and running across the room to greet my prince. And it's hard to practice kissing and hugging when you are working with nobody but yourself and you've never been kissed before, but I tried anyway. And I remember the thrill and the feeling of anticipation, even at that young age, of someday actually falling in love and being in a relationship with someone. But it never actually happened, just like in my daydream. It was better. Anyway, the chapter defines falling in love as an emotional, euphoric obsession. If we've fallen in love with someone, it says we think about them day and night. We have the illusion that they're perfect, they're the answer to our dreams, and their human weaknesses and failings don't seem to matter to us even if we see them. Any number of things can help create that feeling in us. Maybe it's the person's personality traits, their physical looks or characteristics, their voice, their body language, their interest in us, their status. I suppose that's how God created us to be. After all, if we didn't have some inherent characteristic in us that prompted that, why would anyone ever pursue a relationship with someone else? The phrase love at first sight is based on some of these things I just mentioned, because at first sight, we've obviously not been able to get to know the person well enough to truly love them, especially with a biblical definition of love. The euphoric, emotional, in-love stage has a natural shelf life because as we get to know a person and really learn their strengths and weaknesses, the real them under the surface appearance, we either fall out of love with that person or our in-love develops to a more mature, solid love based on the reality of who that person is. We come to see their imperfections, their annoying traits. And at some stage in the relationship development, perhaps at several stages along the way, we make the decision that either these things are deal breakers and we aren't going to continue the relationship, and hopefully this has happened before marriage, or we realize that this person is human just like the rest of us, and we choose to love them based on reality, not on the illusion. Marriage and all that goes with it has a way of greatly magnifying both the euphoria and the realities of life. On the plus side, when you're married, it's us against the world. You're suddenly part of an exclusive team of two. There's a cozy intimacy to knowing and being known. The sexual relationship, the honeymoon stage of marriage. But on the reality side, there are the stresses of life like paying bills, cleaning the bathroom, dealing with the messes the other person leaves around, not finding what you wanted when you opened the fridge because the other person used it. Not to mention having to balance schedules, parents, jobs, sometimes children, expectations, and priorities. If a person goes into marriage realizing that the euphoric, in-love emotions aren't just naturally going to last forever, and that it takes a conscious effort to maintain them and grow them into lasting love, then there won't be such a feeling of devastation when those emotions and feelings ebb and flow. Basing love on just feelings, though, is often how the world operates. People think that because they're no longer in love with their spouse, it's a valid reason to divorce and find someone else. But you know the story. Eventually, the new in-love relationship faces reality just like the old one did, and the cycle continues. How much better, and in keeping with God's original plan for marriage, is when our love for each other is based not only on emotion, but also on the choice to love each other. How devastating it would be to go through married life thinking that if your spouse's feelings toward you change, if at any point they just aren't feeling it, that's the end of your marriage. If it's a marriage based only on falling in love or feeling love, that's what you've got. But if your marriage is based on a commitment to God and a commitment to one another, that you both will choose to love and choose to act in ways that show and express love to the other person, then you've got a solid rock that you're building on. You have the emotional security of knowing that you're truly loved, that someone is committed to your best interest, to doing what's best for you, to helping meet your needs, and you are doing the same thing for the other person. You genuinely become a team, a partnership like none other. And when at points the stresses of life and humanity and hormones cause the feelings to wane, or they bring us face to face with the challenges and obstacles that we think there is not any possible way to overcome, we have the deep down knowledge and confidence that we as individuals and as a marriage team have the motivation and tools and commitment to choose to love, to come through the tough times, and to enjoy a marriage based on a love that's so much deeper and better than just the initial surface falling in love. That's what this course is for, to help give us the tools to develop that in our marriages.
Right. Good work, my sweet. All right, well, there's probably not much more for me to cover, but I will anyway. Yeah, as you may have already guessed, we were asked to speak on the issue of falling in love. I hope you have read the chapters. If you haven't, it would be good to read the chapters ahead of what's happening, because then, as we gather together, hear the various talks, and then, talk about things at the table, it'll really help reinforce things. There is just nothing like falling in love. Man, it is wonderful, it's amazing, it's phenomenal. The world is beautiful, the sky is bluer, the birds sing sweetly in the trees, the grass is greener, life is good. If you are tending a little towards the spiritual, why, Jesus is wonderful and all is right with the world. And it's pretty cool. The author spends quite a little time dealing with this because it is, I think, at the very core of the need for a class like this. The author says, we've been led to believe that if we are truly in love, it will last forever. But the problem is that the definitions are all whacked. And so what the world has to offer just doesn't pan out. I would expect that most of us have had the experience, probably multiple times, of being attracted to another person. And then with all the nerves and stuff, getting to the point where somehow we made a connection with the other person. Perhaps someone said, hey, Sally likes you, or, Bob thinks you're cute, whatever it happens to be. And so somehow we get together a little bit, and once there's that sense that there's a reciprocal, I think she really does like me, wow, then it is a whole new day. And in our case, somebody said, hey, what about Rena? And I said, hey, what about Rena? And then while she was on vacation, over Christmas vacation, she sent me a Christmas card. I don't know, you probably still have the card somewhere. I don't know that I have it, but you might. I don't know. Anyway, well, she may have burned the card because it turned out to probably not be a good investment on her part. I don't know. But anyway, when she came back home, that turned the wheels, and you know, all of a sudden I started to look at Rena with an entirely different set of eyes. And so, you know, once I knew that she kind of liked me back, woo-wee, you know, that's a fine thing. Now, before that particular blessed series of events took place, I went to a youth camp, and there was now I was much younger. I was a freshman or sophomore in high school. Went to a youth camp, and there was a girl there from Missoula that was pretty cute. And I went to youth camp, and so we held hands and stuff, and she may have forced me to peck her on the beak or something. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we held hands, but you know, it was, you know, pretty big stuff. And so then my family moved immediately to Alaska. So we were writing letters back and forth, you know, for a while, and then, you know, kind of nothing happened in between. And then I discovered that she's going to go to Warren Civic College, and so I was about to graduate from high school, and I didn't have any idea where to go or what to do. I just, you know, yep, we're going to the zoo, you know. So I decided, well, hey, maybe I'll go to Warren Civic College too. So I decided that I would go to Portland, go to school, and I hadn't hardly any more than gotten off the airplane before I thought, not sure she's the one, but at least it got me there. So for the next 5 years, I was going to college there. Later, I was about to graduate from college, and not knowing what was next, near the end of the school year of my final senior year, I had a sort of romance with another girl from California. And it was at the end of the year, and a bunch of us had gone out to the river, and, you know, I saw her, I thought, hey, Audrey's kind of cute, and so, you know, we connected for just briefly, you know, probably about holding hands, about all we did too. But then immediately she went back to California for the summer. Well, I had a job lined up to coach wrestling and teach in Riddle, Oregon. So I had the whole summer, and I thought, hey, I'll go down and see old Audrey here. Well, you know, I did. I hopped in my car, drove to California, pulled into town, never saw her again in my life. I did see her mother, though, and her mother told me that she'd gotten connected back with her old high school boyfriend. So here, now I'm in California, now what do I do? So I'm in California wandering around. I look up another idiot friend of mine from the college, and we say, hey, there's a camp meeting at Northern California. Why don't we go there? You know, free food, because, of course, we weren't figuring on paying anything, you know. And so we showed up at the camp meeting for a week, and I had opportunity to experience just a remarkable, phenomenal revival. On the way back from that camp meeting, driving along I-5 in the middle of the night in my little Toyota, I got called by God into the ministry in as real a fashion as sitting here. It was a remarkable thing. Now I mention those two things as interesting things that at my deep state of spiritual connectedness at the time, apparently the only way God could get my attention was by sending some lovely young thing into my pathway, and it completely changed the trajectory of my life. On the one, I went to college because there was a girl, you know, and I wasn't even in love there. I mean, I didn't know her enough to even hardly be in love, although, you know, it was certainly interesting and stuff. And the second, you know, it led me to a place where I was exposed to things to get called into the ministry. And it was this business of being in love changes all of life at times. Nothing else is important at that time, it seems like. It is like a powerful drug, and that's not a bad analogy. It is like a powerful, addictive drug. It changes the patterns of life. It's being in love with love. Empires have been lost over it. Armies have fought. Many have died for it. It causes people to lose their minds. You know, to those in love, nothing else matters. The sun rises and falls on the object of our affection. Now, can you relate with some of that? Have you had that experience? Can I get a witness? Yes, one guy. All right, okay. Yeah, it's okay to vote. That's what we're doing here. You know, the elk, the deer, you know, the animal kingdom. Man, I mean, you do not want to get in between, you know, lovers. In even the animal kingdom, unless you want to get your head knocked off. It's a remarkable thing that God has put into creation. Now, most people want to put their best foot forward when meeting someone. You know, how much more in a setting when we might find a reciprocal relationship. We shower, brush our teeth, you know, our tooth, as it may be, put on clean clothes, watch our manners, maybe open doors, do all kinds of special little things. And it's not just a physical or sexual thing. These are powerful components, might not exist without them, you know, but it's not just that. There's a altruism and a desire to really meet the needs of the other person and stuff. It's a very interesting thing. We're on a quest to discover love. Yeah, I think most of all of us are, actively or not. My dad used to say that marriage is an institution for the blind. You know, because love is blind and marriage is an institution, so therefore marriage is an institution for the blind. When we're in love, we do see the other person as our path to love and joy and peace and all the good things that life has to offer. We view them as perfect. Now, anyone with a thimbleful of sense recognizing that the other person, I mean, anybody would pass a quiz. Is the person that you're in love with perfect? You know, if you would think about it, you would have to check yes or no, you'd have to check no. But we don't stop and check that box. We just have the idea, yeah, this person is perfect for me. I cannot tell you how many people have come into my office and they have told me, I couldn't say right out loud in front of God and everybody, this person, I mean, I could not even put in an order to God for what this person is. Meets all of the things I ever hoped for. Now that's before they get married. After they get married, the list has oftentimes been rearranged substantially in some cases to where now they'd like to kill one another. When we're in love, each person sees marital bliss and believes that we'll be supremely happy. We see other couples that don't have it right, or that if they ever had it, they lost it, but we still say, that'll never happen to us, because we got it going on. We know we have it together, right? Can you relate? Okay, it seems like we may intuitively speak the love language of the other during that in-love phase. And I think that can kind of come automatically in many cases, or else we're so blind it doesn't matter. But as Rena was mentioning the other day, you know, if she brings a bunch of brownies and I say, yeah, cool, thanks, you know, and I set them on the counter and they sit there for 2 months, you know, chances are she won't do that again. But if I say, wow, those are the best thing ever, and eat them and tell everybody about them and all that kind of stuff, she'll say, oh, okay, that works, I'll do that again. So the problem is, as Rena mentioned, that the in-love thing has a shelf life. And the book says that the in-love euphoric experience typically can last about 2 years. If it's a secret affair or some other kind of a thing, or a long-distance relationship, sometimes that phase can last a little longer, but it does have a shelf life. And if the relationship is not worked at and nurtured, it will just wither away and die. It takes some real effort to make it happen. So there are several ways I think people have dealt with this. In the old days, I think people just stayed together anyway. You know, they stay together for the sake of the kids or whatever. And so they just oftentimes, many would just live out lives of quiet desperation. One or both gave up on the idea of really enjoying the marriage and just were enduring and finding whatever joy they could in other kind of avenues. A lady in Nebraska was once asked, have you ever considered divorce? She said, never. Murder with my bare hands many times. Divorce, never, you know. Others try to find excitement in other pursuits. Whether hunting, shopping, going out with the girls, going out with the boys, hobbies of all sorts, even finding alternative relationships to bring back the excitement. In some cultures, men have multiple wives or concubines or mistresses. Down through history, that has been often the case. Seeking that in-love experience. Today, people often just move in and out of relationships, looking for the in-loveness. Increasingly, this is done in our culture without even a nod to marriage. And the book deals with this. The mantra is, well, we just stopped loving one another. I don't know if there are any of you here who might be in that situation or close to it or whatever, but my suspicion, as the book also mentions, it's not that we stopped loving one another, it's that we never learned to love one another. We had the in love, and we never took it beyond that. Any opinion or any of these options that is fueled by the world or by our own flesh or by the devil ends up bringing despair, discouragement, disillusionment. The illusion evaporates. It can be from giving up on enjoying life, and many take this. It's probably, I would imagine that every married here has been tempted in those times just to give up. I think that temptation is there. The other by flitting from one train wreck to the next, to the next, to the next. I can write names of people that I've seen in my life who have just gone from one to the next, but they keep getting older and their options keep diminishing, and they keep missing the things that I believe God has for us in marriage. And there's another option. It's the option of making this marriage work and being blessed and meeting the needs of one another. It is an option, and that's what this project is all about. True love, really, the lasting kind of love, is a decision, really a series of decisions. It's choice, it's action. And in 1 Corinthians 13, it talks just, it says love is patient. That's not a feeling, that's an action. You got to learn to be patient. It doesn't just happen naturally. It's kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not proud. It doesn't always have to be right. It's not rude. It is not selfish, not self-seeking, not easily angered. Are any of those things, they sound like, your marriage? We got to work at them all. They're hard. Those require a lot of commitment and self-discipline. Keeps no record of wrongs, does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Being in love is more by instinct, or biology, or chance, or romance, or connections, the desire to be loved. It is cool, it is wonderful, and it's the real thing. It's just a prelude to what can and should take place in a healthy marriage. Genuine love is a commitment. All right, Lord bless you. I hope that this week we'll get a chance to explore some of those things, as we go through.
Thank you, Larry and Rena. Thank you very much. I'm going to, so that is chapter 3, Falling in Love. And we're going to jump right into chapter 4 here, and we're going to learn about love language number 1, words of affirmation. And I've got a video I want to show you again of my friends. I should preface this a little bit more for some of you that are just joining us tonight. So when I started this project, I went about applying the book and interviewing my friends, those that I saw were in long-term, lasting, loving relationships. And I wanted to learn how they applied their love languages, because everyone's got a little different deal on it. And some of us, we have, we're going to discover as we go through this what our primary love languages are. They're not necessarily the same as our spouse, too. So let me share this, this clip with you here.
We write love letters to each other still.
And maybe they're not just, they're not really like a letter. It's more like a quick little note. I'll get a sheet of paper or a napkin
He'll
or
put it
something.
on my coffee.
Just say, baby, I want you to know I'm thinking of you, and I hope you have a great day, love, And then I put it by the coffee pot, because
quite often we still do.
blindly, that's where she goes every morning, is right to the coffee pot. And, we've got a computer set up, it's just inside the, dining room kind of area. And so often, I'll just fire up the monitor and write her a note on Word and leave it up in big bold letters on the computer. because you got to go walk right by it to go to the bedroom to get dressed or whatever. And so I'll leave a note on the computer and just leave it in great big bold letters for her so that she'll see it. And
Now, why do you do that?
there's so much going on in our life that it's work, it's family, it's fire department, it's church, there's just so many things going on that by the time I get home, it's 10 o'clock at night and we're going straight to bed. And very, very seldom at work do I have an opportunity to just stop what I'm doing and call and say, baby, I want you to know I'm thinking of you, I love you. And it's just really important for me to make sure she knows how much I appreciate her.
Thing is my daughter wrote me this card one time about how much she respected mommy. She told me all these things, and I was just, I was like, it brought me to tears.
Every day since we were engaged, he has always told me on a daily basis that he loves me. A day does not go by that he doesn't tell me that he loves me. And it's not in a flippant way, or it's not in a, oh, I love you, see you, bye. It's always with meaning. He always takes the time. And he always tells me that he appreciates me. I strive to always make him dinner and to do things for him, and he always thanks me. I never feel like anything that I do is thankless.
Well, she does a lot of, acts of service. I mean, just doing what she does. But it doesn't meet necessarily the need as much as words of affirmation or physical touch. If I feel a lack, it's in that area. If 10 people can tell me it was a good sermon or whatever, if Rena's ho-hum or thinks of something else, or why didn't you say this, or or whatever, however it turns out, I'm either buoyed up by that or put down by it,
Which I would never do.
Right, but if she would.
There's times where she gets this really soft voice, and it's like, it just melts me. It's like, if she asked me to go outside in my skivvies and walk in the snow barefoot, I'd do it. I mean, I know that's a really fun, but that's the way I can put it. It's just, there's something about her, she has this certain voice, and she'll talk, and it's like, I just melt. I mean, I literally just, I'm butter. I'm like, whatever you want. It's like, and she'll tell me something, and it's like, I needed that day. But, growing up, because of what I've gone through, I did not have a lot of affirmations.
I can write them down, and then again, when it's written, it's your choice when you decide to read it, right? Mm-hmm. And that has everything to do with the next part of communicating, is timing.
And I appreciate that, all those things. That's not irrelevant to me. The acts of service was down the line with me. But she does a lot of things, I think, to establish that she loves me and takes care of me and covers for me, defends me. I think there are a lot of times when she defends me, and that's probably a word of affirmation. In a lot of marriages, people are continually putting one another down. Rarely does that ever happen. Sometimes in jest or whatever it can be, but it's clearly that way. And so whenever she defends me, or that, that makes me feel good. Certainly makes me feel loved.
Corey can bring me from being cranky about something back to a place of understanding how small it is by laughing about something. So, just putting things in perspective for one another. So.
Well, there is great power in words. Words can inspire men to go off to war and become heroes. Words can build men up to achieve great accomplishments. Words can also destroy marriages and shatter relationships. It's amazing how much the Bible warns of the power of the tongue.
The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. From Proverbs 18:21.
We are to guard our tongue and weigh through what is to be said before it is spoken. Like an arrow, they can fly, piercing the very heart of their target.
But there is also so much healing and encouragement that can be given by heartfelt words shared at just the right moment. Those words are like bars of gold.
2 seasons back, I remember speaking to my son's basketball coach, and I was sharing with him at the end of the season my heartfelt appreciation for the way he was always just inspiring and encouraging the boys out there playing basketball. And I just told him how I knew that my son was going to remember those moments. And whatever it was, and I said in that moment, in that handshake, I know that it resonated deeply with this man, because I remembered he just started weeping at that point in time. The tears, he was trying all he could to hold back these tears. He had this giant smile on his face, and weeping right along with it all. And I'll tell you, I would bet good money that his primary love language was words of affirmation. It was how he shared encouragement to the boys and the basketball team, and in return to how we received it. And I know for myself, it is, I believe that we typically reflect the love language that we best receive. I know, for instance, that my wife, Christine, her love language is acts of service, because I'll tell you that almost every day she gets up and she makes me a sack lunch for me to take to work. And there's a few occasions she'll even throw in a little love note along with it. And I know, for instance, how much she appreciates it when I clean up the kitchen. Christine and I are high school sweethearts. We've been married just over 30 years. And now she totally knows that my primary love language is words of affirmation, because I am always flirting with her. Let me tell you, when she walks in the kitchen after getting dressed up, and even if it is just for work or something like that, I'll be like, you sure look good. You know, come over here and give me some sugar, honey. I might be hamming it up a little bit here now, but she knows that that is my primary love language. And now my second love language is physical touch. So when we get together in the kitchen, we can take the kitchen from rated G to PG-13 in a hurry, let me tell you. So I can't help myself. I mean, why she gotta look so good all the time?
So those are words of appreciation, one dialect of words of affirmation. Another dialect is words of encouragement, like our son's basketball coach. We need to be coaches for our partners and be their biggest fans.
Yeah, amen. In high school, my dad was one of my biggest encouragers. I played football, but I probably really excelled most of that track and field. And I remember my dad, he would show up to cheer me on at the track meets that we had. And at night, I really worked at it. I would take the discus home. That was the thing I specialized in particularly. And Dad would come outside, and he would be there in the yard. He would be sharing techniques with me. He used to throw the discus himself back in high school. And he would tell me stories of the guys he knew, like these great legends from a bygone era, his high school buddies. But he would build them up, and how they would go out, and they would used to take these cast iron stovetop plates, and they would be throwing those out in the yard. I'll tell you, with all that encouragement that I received by my senior year in high school, I threw the discus, I broke my high school record. I threw the discus further than anyone in the state of Nebraska that year.
All right.
I did not actually go off to college on a scholarship, although I had some offers. There was something about going off and seeing the world that excited me more. And so I joined the Army instead. And 2 years later, I had the opportunity to return home and marry my high school sweetheart. Christine took over for my dad as the encourager in my life. Our first duty assignment together was at Fort Benning, Georgia. As a young soldier, I did not make much money, as you can expect. We spent our honeymoon, in fact, driving across country from Nebraska to Georgia. And I can still remember to this day when we pulled up to the 10x60 trailer that I had rented as our home there, and how did Christine cried when she saw this rundown trailer we'd rented off of Victory Drive. The weeds had grown like 2 foot tall in my absence there.
But to give him credit, the house was newly remodeled inside with faux wood paneling and indoor-outdoor carpeting. It looked bleak at first, but this was where we would start our new lives, and we turned it into a home.
Yeah, that we did. To stand out from the soldiers there, I competed in a lot of military competitions. They went from Company Soldier of the Month, quarter and year, up through the different battalion, brigade, and post levels, and they would challenge soldiers in physical fitness, military trivia, marksmanship, and knowledge of world events. Most evenings and weekends, I would tell you, I was at home spit shining my boots while Christine was there spray starching my uniform, and then she would drill me on the different military trivia that I would have to answer. For instance, it's like, what is the maximum effective range of the M16A2?
550 meters.
That's right, I still got it. By the end of our season of training, Christine knew the answers as well as I did.
You can do it.
She would say,
You've got this down cold. I believe in you.
and those words just calmed my nerves. Just like Proverbs 12:25 says, an anxious heart weighs down a man, but a kind word cheers him up. Then she would give me a hug and send me out the door to compete. Now, none of this was ever required in my military duties, but I chose to engage in it because I wanted Christine to be proud of me. And I wanted to go somewhere in my profession. And well, when I competed, I won, and I won. And winning for us meant promotions.
More money.
More money, right down to it. When I think about it now, I accomplished those things because I had a cheerleader in my corner. And I had a stable, loving home environment to thrive in. Christine never made it about the living conditions that we started out in that 10x60 trailer, the hole in the bathroom floor, the termite invasion that we had on the first warm spring day down there in Georgia. She never cried because she was homesick, except that one time when we pulled up to the front door. But I believe in that moment there, she resolved herself to say, this is it. This is what I've got, and I'm going to make the best of it. She always turned lemons into lemonade. And she made her life about encouraging me, and through her encouragement, I'll tell you that I grew into the man I became, and it helped me to rise through the military ranks.
And we did have an awesome adventure for 20 years in the military, serving overseas in Germany, Panama, and Puerto Rico.
Her encouragement kept our marriage going strong through many deployments and lengthy separations that we had to endure. Twice I was stationed in Korea. It was about a decade apart, but for a year at a time without her and the kids. 6 of our 20 years in the military were spent with me being deployed away from home. And always she wrote me letters, sending on pictures of her and the kids and cookies and special things to cherish. Her letters I always cherished, and I soldiered on. And I knew that I had a place in this world where I belonged.
So words of encouragement are vital during times of separation. Sometimes spouses are forced to live apart. How many of you know someone who went off to work in North Dakota or some other part of the country in order to provide for his or her family, leaving his wife or her husband and kids for sometimes weeks at a time? How can the husband and wife continue to feel close and remain the support for one another, though the miles separate them? To encourage one another during these times apart is the key to lifting one another up and coping with anxieties, concerns, and feelings of aloneness. The words of affirmation worked for us, and I am confident that it can work for others. During times when we were apart, we relied on spoken and written words to support one another, lift each other up, and communicate our faith in one another. The sound of his voice during the occasional phone calls brought reassurance, and the letters we wrote to one another gave us comfort and peace, something to hold on to and to cherish. I encourage anyone who plans to travel on business or for some other reason where you two are apart, be very deliberate in taking time for a phone call. Take time to write a letter that expresses your love and encouragement for your loved one to hold on to until you make it through the time apart.
Gary Chapman talks about 2 of the love languages in his book, and I'd like to briefly just discuss those with you. And it's about words of kindness and humble words. It is said that a kind word turns away wrath. You cannot live life without experiencing hurt and going through pain. I think we all know this. And there are times when we just need to vent. How special it is when you can share your frustrations with an empathetic ear. When you receive empathy back, you know that you have been heard. In arguments, we shout. Why? Because we want to be heard. Can you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Yes, I get it. That's really a crappy thing. I understand now why you feel that way.
Oh, you hear me? I guess I'll stop yelling.
Kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. Proverbs 16:24.
Expressing empathy can be powerful. We all want to be heard. And when someone makes the effort to walk in our shoes, it makes us feel special.
Love doesn't keep score of wrongs, and love does not bring up past failures.
When we have been wronged, we have the option to either seek justice or forgiveness. Justice comes easier when the other person doesn't want to share your pain. You want them to feel your pain, do you not? But when empathy is received instead, forgiveness comes and intimacy can be restored. There is no intimacy in justice.
Now, this is much easier said than done, but when we deliberately choose to use words of kindness, we are choosing to walk in their shoes and express sympathy.
When we use humble words, we are choosing to use words of gratitude. We are expressing gratitude with our requests. There's an expression which says that you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Granted, I'll tell you that when you catch flies, you're not going to do anything nice to them anyways, are you? Yeah, this might be the same with this love language. Because many times we are asking someone to do something they might not consider doing at that particular point in time. But with any relationship, there are points when we just need to express our desires. And if you are not expressing those desires with gratitude, then they're likely coming across as demands. How does it make you feel when a demand has been placed upon you? A subservient sense of expectation has just been put upon your shoulders. You've just been made into a peon, a pawn. The chances now of you performing that task with joy have greatly been diminished. Because when there are demands, there are consequences. Fear or guilt or some other emotion is now attached to it, but it's not love.
Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. Philippians 2:3. When we appreciate what others do for us, it is an expression of love. A demand suffocates love.
Chapter 4 covers a lot of ground with words of affirmation. If this is not your primary love language, as someone who has this love language, I would really encourage you to spend time wrestling through it and learning to speak words of encouragement, words of affirmation to your loved one. Gary Chapman recommends to make note of the things that your spouse does well.
Write them down. Find time to give a compliment. If you struggle with expressing gratitude directly, tell their mother or close friend how good they are to you. The word will get back to them and will likely be exaggerated all the more. Take time to write them a love note. Your words can bring life to the one you love, inspire amazing achievements, and can be as richly rewarding as bars of gold.
Thank you. Thank you. So that is love language number 1. And we're going to take a little bit of time. We don't have too much time left here. So if you can accommodate us for 10 minutes. We want our host couples each have some questions. And we'd just like to spend a little bit of time. Maybe you can take 5 minutes on each one of the topics. Hit at least one topic in each category, and we'll get you out of here for tonight. Well, folks, we've run out of time once again. I don't want to hold you up any longer here. Definitely next week we're going to cover quality time and acts of service. So if you can make sure that you read those 2 chapters at least, that's what we're going to hit next week. And I'll ask Pastor Larry if he could close us out in prayer tonight.
Well, I do appreciate all of you coming, and I hope that we have really been praying that God will just do some cool stuff in your world. I hope that you're connecting a little bit with one another and getting maybe a fresh sense of hope, and that there is joy, and there really is, God really, I think, does want us to enjoy one another, enjoy life, enjoy Him, and so there are those that would be glad to talk with you. If you have issues that you'd like to talk about, we want to be able to be available to minister in any way that's possible. But we really have been praying a lot that God would just do some cool stuff and cause there to be some fresh life and joy. So let's pray. Father, we thank you and bless your name for your mercy, for your grace, for these that have gathered together. And Lord, as we go from this place, I would ask in the name of Jesus that you would just send your Spirit upon us freshly, each of us, that we would have a heart for our spouse, we would have the kind of love to give that would strengthen and encourage and bless the other, and then that we would be able to receive also from your hand and from the hand of our spouse those kind of gifts. And I pray, Lord, that you would instill just a fresh sense of hope and joy and peace and confidence that we have an understanding that your will for us is that we be blessed and that we live lives of blessing to others in Jesus' name. Amen.